and looked in better humour for the phrase. I pulled out my watch. "I'll come at 1 when I knock off. In any case, if you can wait till then." "Rather!" he cried quite heartily. "And I'll wait here if you don't mind, Mr. Gillon. I've just seen my mother and sister off to town, so it fits in rather well. I don't want them to know if it's anything beastly. May we smoke in here? Then have one of mine." And he perched himself on my counter, lighting the whole place up with his white suit and animated air, for he was a very pleasant fellow from the moment he appeared to find me one. Not much my senior, he had none of my rude health and strength, but was drawn and yellowed by some tropical trouble, as I rightly guessed, which had left but little of his outer youth beyond a vivid eye and tongue. Yet I would fain have added these to my own animal advantages. It is difficult to recapture a first impression, but I think I felt from the beginning that those twinkling sunken eyes looked on me and all things in a light of their own. "Not an interesting place!" cried young Delavoye, in astonishment at a chance remark of mine. "Why, it's one of the most interesting in England. None of these fine old crusted country houses are half so fascinating to me as the ones quite near London. Think of the varied life they've seen, the bucks and bloods galore, the powder and patches, the orgies begun in town and finished out here, the highwaymen waiting for 'em on Turnham Green. Of course you know about the heinous Lord Mulcaster, who owned this place in the high old days. He committed every crime in the Newgate Calendar, and now I'm just wondering whether you and I aren't by way of bringing a fresh one home to him." I remember feeling sorry he should talk like that, though it argued a type of mind that rather reconciled me to my own. I was never one to jump to gimcrack conclusions, and I said as much with perhaps more candour than the occasion required. The statement was taken in such good part, however, that I could not but own I had never even heard the name of Mulcaster until the last few days, whereas Delavoye seemed to know all about the family. Thereupon he told me he was really connected with them, though not at all closely with the present peer. It had nothing to do with his living on an estate which had changed hands before it was broken up. But I modified my remark about the ancestral acres, and made a worse. "I wasn't thinking of the place," I explained, "as it used to be before half of it was built over. I was only thinking of that half and its inhabitants. I mean, that is, the people who go up and down in top hats and frock coats." And I was left clinging with both eyes to my companion's cool attire. "But that's my very point," he laughed and said. "These city fellows are the absolute salt of the historic earth like this. They throw one back into the good old days by sheer force of contrast. I never see them in their office kit without thinking of that old rascal in his wig and ruffles, carrying a rapier instead of an umbrella. He'd have fallen on it like Brutus if he could have seen his grounds plastered with cheap red bricks and mortar and crawling with Stock Exchange ants." "You've got an imagination," said I, chuckling. I nearly told him he had the gift of the gab as well. "You must have something," he returned a little grimly, "when you're stuck on the shelf at my age. Besides, it isn't all imagination, and you needn't go back 100 years for your romance. There's any amount kicking about this estate at the present moment. It's in the soil. These business blokes are not at all the dull dogs they look. There's a man up our road, but he can wait. The first mystery to solve is the one that's crying from our back garden." I liked his way of putting things. It made one forget his yellow face and the broken career that his looks and hints suggested, or it made one remember them and think the more of him. But the things themselves were interesting, and Witching Hill had more possibilities when we sallied forth together at 1 o'clock. It was the height of such a June as the old century could produce up to the last. The bald red houses, too young to show a shoot of creeper or a mellow tone from doorstep to chimney pot, glowed like clowns' pokers in the ruthless sun. The shade of some stately elms on a bit of old road between the two new ones of the estate appealed sharply to my awakened sense of contrast. It was all familiar ground to me, of course, but I had been over it hitherto.